Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you are on Ginger Chick Rehab, where along with my husband Chris, we love to share the process of how we take secondhand finds and we give them new life and share the process with you all here on our channel. In today's video, I'm doing some wall decor, kind of some signs, trying to show some different techniques, along with a mirror that all of a sudden I'm like, uh-oh, sometimes when you start to clean an object, it goes downhill. So I'm going to share the process with you all of what happened to this mirror. I can't believe that I didn't see this mirror the first, second. It took me to the third time of picking at the hoarder's house to see this mirror. And on our way home, luckily when the mirror fell out of the back, it did not break. But it is a beautiful, chunky, long wooded mirror. I'm not really sure what its story is. All I know that I just saw that wood and that beautiful age to it that I fell in love with it. And I wasn't kidding when I said age. Look at that date on there. Oh, wow. That actually surprised me. Unfortunately for this mirror's life, I think it had been screwed in to the wall from the front, no hanging system on it, just straight and straight, just screwed right in. And the hoarder's warehouse actually used to be a bar for many a years, so we are thinking that it was one of the bar mirrors. So actually on the shelf part, they actually set containers that left rings, and then it has all this weird bubbling going on, and then again, somebody painted around the mirror and they didn't tape it off. So the mirror, unfortunately, the mirror has a lot going on. Plus, it's taking quite a long time to get these very long flathead screws out that probably are what held it into the wall to begin with. Now, I think we got all the nails, the staples, anything that was attached to this poor mirror off, and so I need to start cleaning it and seeing what's underneath all this dust and this yellow powder. You know, my original plan was just to keep that beautiful aged wood as it is, but the more you get underneath the layers, like you see all the rings from where they had set stuff on it, and then it's got the place where some command strips of some type were attached to it, and then you've got the paint tube that isn't easily coming off at all. And then I thought, well, maybe I can just scrape all these bumps off. I don't really necessarily know what they were, but I'm like, okay, well, I'll just take our card scraper and see if I can get this to be a little bit more smooth. And my next thought was, why don't I take a little bit of alcohol and some steel wool and see if I can just get a little bit more of that bumpiness off. Well, when I started to do that, I finally figured out probably what the bumpiness was. Now, I just cleaned it with Dawn dish soap, hot water, but what I really think it was is probably just years of tobacco. Yeah, probably some cleaning products, some Pledge, and years of tobacco. So quickly I realized that, okay, well, this I'm just going to end up having to sand this because it totally started to change the color. Just, I mean, that shouldn't have happened just with a little bit of alcohol. So whatever the buildup was, which is what I was thinking, see how quickly it started to change. The alcohol was getting rid of the old yuckiness that was on there. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do that much work to it, I might as well go ahead and take the sander and then just sand it all the way down, because the rubbing alcohol, the water actually was making it really gummy. The liquid was making it gummy. So I thought it'll just be easier to let it dry and then go back in with some 120 sandpaper and then just start sanding it down. I also need to deal with all the holes. Every place that it was screwed in or something was screwed into it, I needed to fill. So Starbond CA glue actually makes a brown and a black glue that we use a lot of times here on the channel as an epoxy. So the ones that went all the way into the wall to screw it in, I put tape on the back so it didn't run all the way over. So little by little, I just added a little bit to the holes, used the accelerator, which is a dryer that will dry in 15 seconds, and just kept putting it in until it filled up those holes. So I'm going to be sanding the piece anyway, so the CA glue will just sand flat with it, and it'll just look like a detail on the mirror. Well, that was way more work than I thought I was going to be doing to this mirror. So now I sanded it down with 80 grit, then to 120. Now I'm doing 220 to get it nice and smooth, and then trying to get in any of the detailed little crevices that I could. Wow, I could not believe that I took this all the way down to the raw wood. I'm going to go ahead and give it a bath, just some Dawn dish soap, some hot water. I'm going to let that thoroughly dry. I am loving the color as it's wet, so I'm actually going to be using a stain on this once it is dry. It's a really pretty wood, I think. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and be using some of the Minwax Driftwood stain. So I'm just going to wipe it on and wipe it off, and it's going to soak it right in. This wood was really dry, especially after I did all that sanding and all that cleaning on it. And just the age in general. Wow. It's really a huge difference, but boy, is it beautiful. So now I'm going to seal that stain in with a couple coats of polycrylic. To finish this mirror off, I'm going to go ahead and take some fine grit steel wool, give it a light sanding, making sure that everything's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to take some natural clear wax and give it one more protective coat. So my next sign isn't a board, it is a window, and I believe I got this from a viewer, Laura Joe, some of these smaller windows, and I actually ordered one of these stencils too. I love that organic coffee, that coffee sack, and I just happened to be able to pick a piece of burlap. So oh my gosh, it's all just coming together, and it's like the perfect size for this little window. Before I start making the sign, I need to do a little bit of prep on this window. I'm not sure what these metal, maybe these were storm windows and this was the outer and the metal held it in place, but I need to go ahead and get these removed, and then I'm going to go ahead and tape off the window because I will be giving it a fresh coat of paint, but I still have a little bit more prep. There's some unevenness, really gunked up paint, so I'm going to go ahead and get that sanded smooth. I really don't have a lot of frame here to deal with, and I want to keep that chippy. I love that weathered wood underneath there, so I'm actually going to use the distressing technique of candle wax. So on all the sharp edges, I'm just going to go ahead and rub candle wax, and to give this a fresh coat of paint, I'm just going to be using Fusion's Victorian Lace. It's just a one coat coverage, just a little bit on the heavier side because you don't want to disturb that wax that you just put on too much underneath. But I can work on my burlap and my sign while my frame is drying. So actually, this outer edge of tape that I'm putting down, that is the size of the window pane itself. So that way I know what area I'm working in. I love that the stencil fits in there. So I just wanted to make sure that my measurements were spot on, that I was working in the area that I had. So, and I'm actually going to slide the stencil over because you know me, I love my grain sack stripes, and this is inspired by one of the Funky Junks boards also on her blog that I didn't know was her until I started ordering her stencils. That's just funny how we definitely had a like taste, and I loved her inspirations. So, spray adhesive on the back so that this doesn't move around on me. Now I'm using that same coal black fusion paint. It's nice. We'll see how it works. This is my first time using it on fabric. So I'm just doing that's that makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree store, and where you just have a little bit of paint. It's better to go over multiple times than have so much paint that you make a mess underneath. So far so good. Like I said, these stencils are nice and heavy, so it's really giving you a good transfer between your paint going on. I haven't really had too many problems of it bleeding under whatsoever. And you could pick this stencil apart too. You could just use the organic coffee. You could use the numbers on something else. That is really what attracted me when I saw all the opportunities one stencil could give. The detail is just amazing, you all. So now I'm just going to take a regular size masking tape that I get from the Dollar Tree store, and I'm just going to kind of try to eyeball center. It does not have to be perfect by any means, and hopefully it's straight up and down. And there again, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but that center stripe first, and then I'm going to lay another piece on both sides, and then remove the center stripe because that's where my first paint stripe will go. So I think I did not film myself prepping my burlap sack. So actually what I did was open my burlap sack up by cutting it on the seam, and then I ironed the one area that was creased that had made the other side so that it was nice and flat. That way I can get at least a couple usages out of this one bag. And I actually did realize, like, oh, I bet you my stripe will look cut off underneath the glass, that I need to make it go past what the frame is. So I added a couple more pieces of tape on, hopefully it's straight, and adding a little bit more of the black stripe to make sure that it flows like it had taken up the entire bag. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 2 more stripes, one on either side, and they are going to be like a quarter of what the original size was. So what I do now is I just offset a piece of the masking tape, and you can see by that 1/4 inch off the original stripe, and then there's a piece underneath that you can't see at the moment that is unpainted. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll do it on the opposite side, and then I'll lay another piece with that 1/4 inch of burlap showing, fabric showing where I want my paint stripe to be. So it's just kind of like one of those little going back and forth, but I just want to add a little bit more stripage to this. And I actually do think on Funky Junk's site, she does actually have a grain sack stripe. So for anybody who's struggling making them, maybe that would be an option. Now I just need to get my frame, and my frame is all dry, and it is so super easy, y'all, to with that wax. So all I'm doing is taking like a spackling metal scraper, Pamper Chef scraper, your Cricut scraper, whichever, and where the wax was, it's not adhered, so just easily, once the paint is dry, it scrapes right off. Look at that beautiful distressing. And most of the time I don't feel the need to have to go back in and sand, but if you want more of your wood showing through, or you didn't feel like you got enough wax on, you can definitely go back in and do some sanding with some sandpaper. Okay, well, let's see if I measured right. And oh my gosh, I am so glad that I thought that I needed to extend my grain sack out a little bit, but it is a perfect fit. So now just to attach it, I'm now at this point going to go ahead and cut my bag to the size of what the window is. That way I wasn't wasting any of the burlap. But I did keep two pieces on the top and the bottom a little bit longer quite yet. That way I can fold them over and I can pull them kind of a little bit tight. That way that my burlap, when I go to staple it on the back, is not shifting back and forth. So yes, I'm just going to use the staple gun. I'm going to start with my corners. I'm going to try not to pull. I believe that it's nice and level in the front, and then just work my way around the frame. Now that I have it all stapled on, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut off that excess burlap. I'll finish up my back by putting a piece of a contractor's paper on the back. This is just heavy paper bag that you can buy in rolls. I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue it on. This will just give it that nice finished look. And then once I get all four corners or all four sides glued on, I'm going to take some sandpaper, and that's just an easy way to cut the paper flush with the frame. I'll go ahead and finish this project up completely by using a hanging system. I just use these eyelet hooks that I get off Amazon in a very large multi-pack and a 17 gauge wire, so it's all ready to hang. So in my stash, I have this shutter. It's already been painted white. It's just been hanging out, waiting for inspiration of what to do with it. I think I maybe tried to sell it in my retail booth, but nobody just wanted a plain white shutter. And in my hoard stash, I also have had this Rooster Weathervane piece forever, along with this piece. So sometimes it just takes you a little bit longer to get inspiration of what to do with odds and ends. And we actually have been spring cleaning a little bit in our shop, so there's some pieces and parts that I'm trying to use up and get them out there and back out into the world for people to enjoy. So I thought this would be super cute. We could do a little wording on the bottom with some palette wood. Oh yes, I think this will make a wonderful statement piece. I need to cut this piece of palette wood down, but I want to make sure that I'm hanging over on the full side of the shutter, the framed inside of the shutter, so I have something to nail my little signage onto. Now that I have my two pieces cut down, I just cut them on the miter saw. I need to give them a little bit of age. They look way too new. So I'm just using some of my Waverly watered down antiquing wax. Yeah, I need to mix up some more. So when I do my Waverly antiquing wax watered down mixture, I use just a regular pickle jar full of water, a quarter cup of antiquing wax, and a spoonful of Waverly ink chalk paint, and it really gives it that aged barn wood look. So yes, I'm just going to wipe it right on, and this palette wood is just going to soak that right in. My rooster's been laying around for a while, so I need to give him a good cleaning. I'm just wiping him down with some Dawn dish soap and some hot water. I'm not quite sure who sold this grapevine wreath with the chicken wire. It still had a new tag, but it didn't have the tag on where it was purchased from. So to attach this onto the wire, I'm just using some black wire that I actually thrifted this, but I think you can probably buy it at a hardware store, Hobby Lobby, Amazon, I'm for sure you could get it. I just like to try to match up that black. For this project, I'm going to go ahead and use my Cricut to make a stencil. So I just went into Pinterest looking for something to do with roosters. I didn't want to do a coffee theme because I can see somebody sitting this on their front porch. So I thought the Rise and Shine rooster and the fun of doing a couple different fonts on each one of the palette board just caught my eye. So I just need to size it appropriate to each one of the boards. I'm sure you thought when that stain was going on, these were going to be really dark, but once they dried, they are the perfect hue of aged wood, and I cut perfectly out. I can't believe it. Sometimes you never know, you know, you measure and you're like, well, I didn't measure right, but nope, these fit perfectly. So I know that my vinyl's not really going to stick on this uneven palette wood a lot, especially with the watered down wax mixture, even though it's dry. I wanted to leave it kind of raised, but it'll give me a general stencil that I will be able to use to put the wording on. I don't want black letters overpowering my sign, so I'm using some of the Fusions Victorian Lace white color paint, primer, top coat all in one, so I don't have to seal this in, and just a makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree store with that dry technique where there's just a little bit of paint on it. So with it being a rough texture, I just have to go around a couple times and work it in there very gingerly. I don't want to smash it, especially since I know this vinyl's not a tight stencil fit like you'd want it to be, but it's good enough. All I have to do is brad nail on my signage, put some wire to attach the rooster, and my sign is done. Now I wanted to be a little bit offset just because of the way that I did the wording, that my fonts are too different, but oh my god, this is such a cute sign, y'all. My last project is this very large, I don't know if it necessarily was an ironing board or not, but it is a large board. So I would like to make a sign for myself out of this board. So this board also was given to me by Lori Jo, just like the smaller window that I did the coffee sack on. So I don't know why there's just random like pieces of the paint missing, but I'm going to see if I can get some more of the paint off to get it to look more distressed looking just by taking some 220 sandpaper. And then, yeah, I just want it to be a little bit more aged. And for some reason, there's a big difference between the sides. So I thought I'll sand both of them and see which one I like. So this side did not have any of those chippy areas. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll just get this sanded too. But I'm not going to be cricketing out stencil letters. I want my letters to be really huge. And whatever was causing that paint to come off the board itself, if I went to put vinyl down, I might pull off more of the paint. So I don't want to do that. So what I did, I went into Pinterest, and I found some just basic letters that I can size as big as I can fit on a sheet of copier paper. Now, I know you could maybe, when I went into like my fonts, my Excel, just to type out a letter, it did not let me make it big enough as I wanted to make. So this was my easiest, just to copy and paste a picture. There was a whole alphabet I could use to make the word antique is what I'm going for. So yep, I got it as big as I wanted to. Now I did notice that sometimes when I went to size my letters, I forgot to get them all the way back up into the one corner of my Excel program. So some shifted a wee bit, but I'm just going to try to line them up with the tops of each other and tape them down. First, I'm going to end up tracing the letters onto the wood, so I don't want that much space between each letter. So that's how I'm going to eyeball it, by taking my cutting tool, and then I'm like, okay, well, that's as much space as I need between each one of my letters. Now that I have everything lined up, taped together, taped on, I'm just using an embossing tool that came with my Cricut tools to actually trace down the outline of each one of the letters. I'm sure you could do this with a screwdriver, you could do it with a pen that's not opened, anything just to give that pressure that will write into the wood. So you want to push hard so you're transferring that outline onto the wood. Now that I have all my outline there, I'm just going to go ahead and use the Fusion's Coal Black paint to paint in my letters. And I'm going to use a very thin, flat brush to do my outline first and then work into. The nice thing about pressing that in is it dips in a little bit, so you have a good stopping point for your paint. So now just the fun of filling in all these letters. I had to go back in with 2 coats, but I just absolutely love it. I didn't have to worry about the vinyl pulling up at all. I didn't have to worry about it going under a stencil. It's just nice. Yeah, their letters are big, and yes, it did take me about an hour to do the lettering, but I loved it. After my lettering was dry, I'm going to go ahead and give the lettering a little bit of age. Now, I do wish that I would have had a pre-thought to make my Q just a little bit bigger. I was just sizing everything appropriate, not thinking that the Q's little tongue, we're going to call it, tongue, should have been hanging down. But hey, it is what it is, and I like it. Oh, yes. Okay, we'll touch the mirror first. Yes. I quickly realized when I was cleaning that yep, that was from the bar era. That was when this Hoarder's Warehouse was a bar, and that was probably years and years of nicotine. Yes, yeah. So, yeah. So, unfortunately, it went right down. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's that light wood that people are in right now. I would have left it the dark, just like this cabinet is in the back, if it would have cleaned. But, yeah, it was just coming off and off and off. So, anyway, long story short, it just got a new look. And, oh, I know. And then sharing the process of making signs, making unique signs, trying to not do that mass produce of Hobby Lobby is kind of nice. That great big antique sign, I don't know, that could not have been an ironing board, the one that Lori Jo gave me. I don't know what that was, but I knew if I was going to try to make stencil vinyl that it was just going to pull that paint off, and I liked the chippy paint on it. So yeah, that's something you've never seen me do, that type of signage before. But yeah, it is totally achievable to get that old look and hand do them. Oh my goodness, yes, when you need something that massive. And I actually wanted to stick it in the wall behind me, but I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. It's kind of sitting in the shop. Look at my Instagram or Facebook if I finally made up my mind where it was going to go, or if I was going to end up reselling it. So again, thank you for watching today's video. Give me a quick comment. Have I inspired you to look at secondhand finds in a new way? And again, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!